The House of Assembly convened Tuesday as the lower chamber continued debate on the constitutional reform report. Emphasis was placed on proposals dealing with the government structure and governance. Therefore, North MP Moses Jabatis questioned recommendations contained in the powers of separation, arguing that if adopted, the Prime Minister would be rendered virtually powerless.
The Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister should be the only ones who have free pass into the cabinet. I also believe, Mr. Speaker, that the format that's been suggested, that the Prime Minister selects ministers of government or proposed ministers of government, and then those ministers are accountable to a select committee of Parliament. So what use is a Prime Minister if you have that kind of situation? I believe that the Prime Minister should have ultimate authority over his cabinet, and that should not be in the hands of a select committee of Parliament. The select committee of Parliament can provide oversight, can question about certain programs and so on, administratives, but then that speaks to policy, that speaks to decisions and so on. I do not agree. I do not think that expresses the will of the people who voted a government into office and a party into office.
The Therefore North MP also made a case for a closer working relationship between MPs and their constituencies if true political change and effective governance are to be realized, noting the efforts of the Kenny Anthony administration to have parliamentarians operate in an efficient manner with the provision of allocations for officers and staff. Mr. Jabatis told the House that more needs to be done.
And I always thought that was a good start. I think whether because of resources or whatever, the process has not continued in the way that it should. But that was a good start by the Labour government. Before that, parliamentary representatives were all over the place. You meet them at funeral, they have a little notebook in their pocket and so on. Real disrespect. Right now, you can rent a little office, $2,500, you have to pay a secretary, you have to pay the light bill, you have to pay all of that. Well, not you, but the Parliament, with your allocation. And this, Mr. Speaker, has to go further. I believe somehow in the Constitution there should be some responsibilities for reporting. Some responsibilities should be placed on the parliamentarian to ensure that proper reports are done. So, for example, we have a bill, and I don't know if that can come inside of the Constitution or if it is statutes and so on. But we have a bill. There should be some system where parliamentarians go to their constituencies, except in emergency cases where you must go to Parliament quickly, discuss with their constituents, get comments, and then take your views to Parliament. Now, for this to happen, there must be systems in place at the parliamentary level. I firmly believe that every constituency must have a fixed place the parliamentarian must have a fixed place of a board for his office or her office. And whether you put that in the Constitution, I don't know how you do it, but there needs to be a formal relationship. There must be a building in every constituency that is the building of the parliamentary representative of Beaufort North, whoever the parliamentary representative is, supplied by the government with conference place and so on.
Meantime, Cashew Central MP Richard Frederick called for the inclusion of political allegiance in the listing of non-discrimination bases. Too often, he said, St. Lucians are subjected to victimization and preferential treatment because of that affiliation.
How many of us know that the law is there and it is there for all of us, and all of us can apply for those concessions? Now, if it is within the framework of the Constitution, it would mean, Mr. Speaker, that an applicant for concessions pursuant to a given piece of legislation who is unjustifiably denied can invoke the intervention of the courts and say, look, I am entitled under the Special Development Act, and because I am not a supporter of the government, I was refused. So, Mr. Speaker, I want political allegiance to be incorporated within the non-discrimination, so persons will understand that you don't have to be a friend of the government, of any government of the day, to be entitled to concessions and that your entitlement is pursuant to a given piece of legislation.
Castries Central MP Richard Frederick.